Welcome to Behind the Model, a show diving into the virtual world and exploring its stories with the VTubers who lead the way. Elara once sat behind the camera, editing videos for top VTubers, but over time, she saw herself creeping further and further into frame. Now she's a full-blown content creator herself, and she's gone to great effort to document her journey, both the highs and the lows, to help others on their path to VTubing success. Elara, welcome to Behind the Model.
Hey, Ducky, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no, I mean, first of all, very enigmatic figure in the VTubing space you are. I guess to kind of open up this interview, and the reason why I reached out in the first place is congratulations on winning an award at the Small VTuber Awards with, like, most helpful content.
Hey. Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That was a really cool award. I was definitely shocked that I got it, but it was super cool.
Before we kind of dive into like all that kind of educational content, I want to bring it back to that first point that I mentioned in the intro regarding your video editing. So before VTubing, you worked as a video editor for a number of YouTubers. What was that experience like, and kind of how did you get into that circle?
Yeah, so actually, I started doing some video editing stuff for like my high school at the time. And then I had like a few people that I worked with, my dad as well, because he's a music producer. So I was really interested in kind of like the backgrounds of shows that people were doing, like behind the bands or all the cool lights and visuals and things like that. So I did a little project like for him, and I actually got noticed by a company, and the company reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you like a job?" Like right after I finished high school, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. Why not? And so I learned everything from being there about being a video editor that I know today.
What was it like growing up with that musical background, like going to concerts and stuff and seeing stage design? How does that inspire you?
Oh my God, it was awesome. I mean, most of my experience was either with like metal bands or like hard rock. Like that's who my dad ended up like working with. So like it was really cool just to be part of like that community of like metalheads.
I feel
But
like
I
it
would
sings
definitely say
through
that
in the
like
outfit.
yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, wait till next month. We'll probably talk about that later. Um, but gosh, I have to say, watching all the shows and everything, just seeing people like be entertainers, it really inspired me a lot. I love, I just love music. I love how people are on stage, and I love the process of putting everything together. Right, seeing it from like an empty space all the way to building the stage up and putting all the sound together and the lights. It's just so cool. So I really feel like that inspired me a lot. And starting to create my own content, just like I really love starting at the bottom and making everything and building it up myself.
Was there any like core memory from that like concert era or doing those musical stage setups that kind of still sticks with you to this day?
Yeah, actually. So there's one particular one that sticks out to me. I remember one time I was in my dad's sound booth. He was doing like live mixing. I couldn't tell you what concert it was for. It was just like a random concert. But I remember I was there with him. I mean, he was mixing like some stuff together. And then like next to him, there was another person doing all of the video controls. So he was like controlling all of the lights and everything. And I remember I was looking at that thing. I was just like, I had absolute just like stars in my eyes. I was like, oh my God, what is that? And so he started explaining it to me like, oh, this is like the visual controller. Like, you know, I control the light show and all that. And I thought that was like the coolest thing in the world. So that was definitely something that like stood out to me. I was like, I kind of want to do something like that.
Yeah, it was like, I'm the production person now. Production.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess then, when you fell into video editing, was it everything that it kind of lived up to be for you? Like, what was your experience there?
You know, I have to say at first, I really like when I was in high school, I didn't really like video editing. Like, I was kind of like, this is very tedious. But like, once you start like telling the story, whatever it is, I think that's so magical. Like, you get to take like a raw source of like video and create this like beautiful narrative or story and add your own personal flair into it with like your style of editing, like the effects you like, things like that. I think it's so cool once you're able to like really put a project together It's just like something you can't really do in a lot of places. It's almost like a form of expression, like music, right?
Mm,
It's just a different medium.
mm. And I guess being in that kind of a position, you would kind of see trends and things change over time. When did you kind of
Oh
notice a
yeah.
content shift for you that almost kind of pushed you towards being a creator yourself and being in front of the camera?
Definitely during the pandemic, that whole year, I was working a lot from home because we weren't allowed to go back to the office, and I remember I was watching so much of like Zentreya and other VTubers because VTubing was like really starting to like get really mainstream at that time.
Mm,
And I was like, you know what? I really love this. This is so cool. Like, I really want to do this. Like, I really feel like this is a really great form of expression for me. And also like the anonymity was like another important part that I was kind of like, this is really great too, because
mm.
I had some really bad experiences in my past with people kind of like breaking personal boundaries. So it was like perfect for me. Everything clicked. I was like, I totally want to do this.
Mm. Okay. Wait, was there any other consideration of doing it like the creators that you used to edit with, like Facecam or just, I guess, avatarless versus doing it in VTubing?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess before you really started watching VTubing, like I had considered doing it, right? It was just kind of like a scary notion to me. But I did get to the point where I did start to sit down and kind of consider, streaming myself. But I really want to say, like, what pushed me over the ledge was watching VTubing. Like,
Mm.
it was just so magical. Like, I was like, oh my God, I can be an anime waifu. Like, yes, like, this is it. This is it. It was the final piece of the puzzle for me.
Mm. And I guess what was the transition from video editor to VTuber like? Was it as smooth as you expected?
Oh, absolutely not. I wish. Um, I mean, it was great to edit because I got to understand like how creators are on screen, how you create content in the first place, social media, understanding uploads to YouTube, following in trends, things like that. I think was very helpful. But as far as like the first time I got in front of the screen and started doing it, I had no idea what I was doing. Like zero. I think that's always like a misconception. People are like, "Oh my God, Alara, you seem like really put together." I'm like, I have no idea what I was doing. I have no idea what you're talking about.
I am completely winging it.
Yes.
I guess then, how did that kind of all this come together to inspire the content that you started out with VTubing, which many are probably would know you for with like more of your educational content and the guides and all that kind of work?
Yeah. So, when I got into content creation, I had a lot of questions. Right? We all have a lot of questions when you get into something new.
Mm,
VTubing was still. This was 2021, so I've been doing this a little over 2 years. So at that time, there were not really any guides or any type of knowledge that people were willingly wanting to share with everybody. There was a lot of kind of like things that were gate kept a lot. Not everybody wanted to tell you how to do stuff, which I understand. Like you wanted to kind of like protect the knowledge and things like that, but that's not really how I kind of like approach things. I feel like everybody should have an opportunity.
mm,
So I kind of saw that it was going on, and I saw that there wasn't a lot explained, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this myself. I'm gonna take it upon myself and upload this content and give people some guides because if I'm lost, I know everybody else is lost too.
mm. Does that come from like a place in your background where you have always kind of looked over the shoulder and you kind of figure things out for yourself and you're like, well, now I can kind of share that knowledge with the rest of the world?
Absolutely. I mean, even in video editing, right?
Mm,
Like, yes, you think that there's like a lot of stuff out there that will tell you how to do something like really cool that you want to do, especially like 3D modeling and things like that. No, half of it is just experimenting and figuring it out. Like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great plugins and stuff that do help, but half of it is experimentation and just trying something new for yourself. So
mm.
I really felt like that definitely goes well hand in hand with my content.
Mm. And speaking to a lot of different educational creators, there's a sentiment that they always want to become the help they wish they had. How much does that ring true for you?
Absolutely. Oh my God. Like, I am. Preach, preach. That is absolutely so true. I wish that I had the amount of help that the guide videos that I made were able to provide. Like, when I first started, I remember one person that was so sweet to me was Fire.
Mm.
She's absolutely amazing. She does a lot more kind of like 3D related stuff, but I remember I met with her and she was so sweet to me and she really helped me out a lot. And I think a lot of what she told me at that time really helped inspire me in wanting to, do what I did with all the guides and so on.
Mm. How have you seen kind of the space change then in terms of all the abundance of guides now? Like, what does that make you feel? Like, how do you look at that?
I love that. The more that's out there and the more opportunity everybody has, in my opinion, that's better. I feel like everybody should have the opportunity to be successful. And the more knowledge that's out there that's willingly shared, that is just for a much better and stronger community.
Mm. Yeah. And obviously the stigma attached to awards shows aside, what was it like for you to have that recognition for, I guess, your content and all the stuff that you've contributed to VTubing over the last couple of years recognized at the Small VTuber Awards?
It was awesome. Like, I'm not gonna lie, getting just like the pat on the back, like, hey, like, we recognize what you're doing and it's appreciated, like, goes such a long way. I really appreciate so many people in the community to just like put my name into the hat, right? Like, I really, really did not expect that. And I'm so grateful for that as well. It's really nice to be acknowledged, right? Like, we all want to be acknowledged and we all kind of want that attention, but it feels a little bit better when you're doing it just to like help people instead and people like acknowledge that in return.
It's always just like, it is, you do it for like the good of yourself and like you are doing a good deed, but it is also very nice to have the pat on the back.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to like pivot a little bit because throughout documenting your VTubing journey, you've documented the highs. You've also very much been very public and documenting all the lows.
Yes.
One of the big events that I kind of want to bring up is controversy that you found yourself in regarding some of your model toggles at the start of this year, leading to accusations of racism, etc. What was that experience like for you? And I guess what kind of led to it?
Well, explaining the experience, it was horrible. I mean, I've had tons of stress and anxiety in my life, and that was definitely, quite up there, right? It was something that I was, very upset about. I don't really buy a lot into things that are on Twitter and things like that, but it definitely personally affected me quite a bit. And, there was such like heavy like accusations against me, right? So I felt like the most important thing that I find a lot of creators don't do that I wanted to do was just listen to what people were saying, right? If they had a concern about it or there was something that I could do, just taking the time to understand their side, right? And if I could make a small change to make that a little better, more comfortable, then I feel like it's my personal responsibility to do so, and that's what I did.
Was that a bit of a watershed moment for you regarding, I guess, like the responsibilities bestowed on you because of your platform?
That's a tough question. I know that I always have a responsibility to, put out good into the world, right? Like, I'm not one of those people that lives off drama and negativity. I always try to be like super positive when I can, and that's maybe like my own like responsibility I put on myself. I definitely want to say that it wasn't like, I don't know, like this giant like moment that just like changed my life, but it was certainly like a big moment for me as a content creator, if that's what you're asking.
Like it's definitely like somewhere that you can point to and use it as an opportunity to learn and an opportunity to kind of
absolutely.
hold yourself to account a little bit.
Absolutely. I think that when I see a lot of the Twitter drama and things like that, a lot of creators do this thing, and I'm sure we all know what it is. It's called doubling down. They just basically go, yep, nope, I'm right, you're wrong. Deal with it. I don't care. And I really hate that notion, right? Like if there's the ability to listen and somebody has a concern, I feel like it's our personal responsibility to listen to that concern. You don't always have to action it, right? Maybe that it's not right or you don't feel like it's right, but I do feel like you should at least listen. That's the most important thing. And in this particular instance, like, I think I did it well in explaining, like, hey, like, these colors are very much from a fantastical place. It's like, the drow is from D&D. I had like a Gerudo inspired one from Legend of Zelda. But because there were concerns about it, I thought to myself, I'm like, okay, even though I may not personally agree, right? I can make such a small change to respect how people feel. And so that's what I did, because I really felt like that was just my responsibility.
I guess following on from that, I want to highlight a little bit on the marginalized voices topic. Because a lot of these like issues or debates that come up in VTubing kind of center around marginalized identities, feeling like they're not being represented, or being discriminated against. How important is it for, I guess, the quote-unquote more privileged content creators, like those who come from more privileged backgrounds, to listen to marginalized voices when these things arise?
Even more so. They have even more responsibility too. And I know the bigger creators are probably going to be like, no, that's not true at all. Like, I have no responsibility, but I disagree. I think the bigger and higher you get up in the ladder, I think that you have more responsibility of your own, like, personal look, what you're putting out into the world, right? There's more eyes on you, right? And people look to you, whether you want it or not. People always look to you for answers and for guidance and other things. So I think it's even more important the higher up the ladder that you go.
And I guess you said, like, it would make, like, learning about that, like, made you more considerate in the long run and all those kinds of things. How is it, like, otherwise shaped your content in the way that you've moved forward since then?
So the first thing that I did was, like, when this all happened, right? Was I reached out to a lot of, like, my my POC friends to kind of, like, get an understanding of the side that I could never understand, right? And it was great to kind of get their feedback and kind of their understanding of that. So every time even when I post something, right, I kind of put this lens on that they shared with me of just, like, putting myself in other people's shoes a little bit more before I just immediately kind of, like, post something. Because when I posted that post, right, like, I would have posted it had I in any, like, part of my mind thought that it was going to be considered even, like, racist or derogatory or anything towards anybody, right? Because that's not the type of content that I want to create or put out. But I think now more than ever, I am a little bit more considerate about how my content is perceived by everybody.
Oh, I think that's enough on the drama talk. I think we can move on to, like,
sure. No, I mean, I am down to answer questions about it.
Yeah,
I really have no problem of it, and it's good to talk about it and address it, because I feel like a lot of people just kind of, like, they never took the time to have the conversation like we're having. They just kind of like, we're like, oh nope, you're a bad person, block.
Yeah, and the other side of it, I find, and the reason why I wanted to bring it up was the fact that when you don't have these conversations, it then happens again and again and again and again. So, like, if you at least have the conversation and explain, yeah, okay, I messed up, but this is what you can do, or I messed up, there's nothing I can do, but here's what I can change in the future. I think that's a very healthy conversation to have in the space when there is countless occasions where vitriol goes around and kind of nothing constructive gets done.
Yeah, it just that basic level of communication goes such a long way. And like as a creator, like we value that feedback so much. Like I want to know those things because if I can make my content better, why wouldn't I want to? Like just tell me, just talk to me.
Yeah.
I love the people that disagree more than they agree.
Yeah. And that's not a discount, like, the fact that if you are a marginalized voice, it's very difficult to speak up and yada, yada, yada. But that's a bunch of societal, philosophical stuff that we don't have the time for in this interview. So I want to move it back to your family a little bit. And your dad, because, I mean, the audio engineer background kind of inspired you to move, like, into the directions that you came to. I guess... how much of an importance in your life is music? Like, how much importance do you put on music?
I mean, it really shaped a lot of who I am. I feel like, even though, like, I mean, I play guitar and sometimes on stream, right? So, like, it's there. But I do feel like music is the reason that I went into content creation. Because more than anything, like, music is entertainment, right? And I just I fell in love with that side of everything so much. So, I mean... absolutely shaped me into who I am today.
I know that we mentioned it from like the production standpoint and like setting up the stages and all that, but did you ever have that little inkling of a dream of, yeah, I kind of want to be a rock star?
You know, I'm definitely 100% like that person that is like in the background. Like in theater, I was dressed in all black. Like I was always working backstage. I was that person. So like, it's weird for me like being a VTuber because I think I'm a little bit more like in the spotlight sometimes. And it's really nice, right? Yeah. But I've always kind of been like a supporter class. Like I love seeing other people succeed. So like kind of not.
Yeah. You are the groupie. Also... you are the groupie.
Right. Yeah. Well, in one way I'm a groupie, maybe not the other, but
I guess like because you've had so much concert experience, I actually want to ask you about like VTuber concerts because like you go to conventions now and there's pop concerts and like all these VTubers performing at anime conventions. Hololive is now packing out like arenas in Los Angeles and like across the world. How do you kind of see like this trend of VTuber concerts compared to some of the ones that you saw growing up, and like what do you see in like the potential of this space?
It definitely makes sense to me. I think it ties so well together, right? Kind of both the Eastern and like Western cultures coming together. It makes something just so unique, right? There's a band that I absolutely love and adore, and I think they do this so well. They're actually called Babymetal.
Hey,
so they really take that. Yeah, you know, they take that really Eastern like metal, but then the like Western, like it's just so great.
Yep.
And I feel like it's so unique and new that people are just eating it up, right? It just makes sense. Like if you are in a virtual space, right? It costs a whole lot less to do this type of stuff. It's pretty much easier to do this type of stuff. And also like we can look this way forever, right? Yeah. I can look like this every single day. You always get consistency, which is so hard in the performance space. Like consistency is so tough. So having like all those things together, oh my God, it just totally makes sense. It all just comes together.
Do you ever see yourself like trying to dabble in a concert one day?
You know, I told you I did play some guitar sometimes on stream. I kind of like wanted to see how it went a little bit. I might do it again. Like my community enjoyed it. It wasn't like the best thing, but it wasn't like the worst thing either. So we'll see. We'll see.
Does this all tie into something special happening soon?
Yes. So I know I'm going to back up a little bit by answering your question, but like when I first started VTubing, I told you I had no idea what I was doing. And like, I feel like most people when they start, like they kind of have a brand or they kind of have something that they bring to the table as a focus, right? I never had that. And I honestly tried really hard not to be myself, which is a huge mistake on my part. And kind of over the past 2 years, I've really been more comfortable in coming out of my shell and, you know, portraying who I am and just being more honest to myself and honest with my viewers. and not trying to be something that I'm just not.
Mm.
So next month I'm really gonna be embracing a lot more of like that, the heavy metal kind of upbringing that I had. And I have a new model. I actually a complete rebrand. I mean,
Mm.
I'm really trying to be very true to myself.
Yep. New name?
Oh no. I'll still be Elara.
I was like complete rebrand. I was like, hold up, new name?
Yeah, maybe not a new name, but
Yeah.
the visuals will definitely be quite different. When I started out, I this might be a shock to you, but I was very say so. I never cursed. There were no booba jokes. Like, I mean, I was very say so, and just over time, I was like, that's not me. Like, why am I trying to do this?
Mm.
And so, next month is really like it's not a restart. It's being true to myself.
Mm. And you can probably pick it out depending on how well the colors are edited in the video. But like your model right now is just like a lights off version of like your original one. Like you can still see the blonde highlights of your hair, like that was like usually there, and like the kind of there you go, the light armor and all that kind of stuff. And that is quite a different look from what you have now.
Oh yeah, I mean, I remember if I remember you were asking me about kind of like a big moment VTubing. Really, actually doing this recolor. I remember I was sitting in front of my VTuber model, and I was in VTube Studio, and I was looking at things, and I was like, I would love to put like the same color hair that I have on Elara, like IRL. And I was like, you know what? Let me try to do a black like hair color for her. And so I put it on. I was like, I actually like this, and I sent this to my mods, and they were like, oh my god, like I love this. And I was like, this is who I am anyway. Like, I'm very much goth. Like, why don't I try this out? And I remember I tried it out on stream, and it was just like, it was like a light bulb went off. Like, everybody was so nice and supportive. And I was like, you know what? I want to be more myself on stream. That was like a huge moment for me.
And I guess to kind of wrap things up, I kind of want to take a look back at like the educational content a little bit, and also how your content has changed over time. So obviously you did a lot of the educational stuff, but you are an entertainer. How do you kind of juggle that split between the two?
I always like to put out like my funny ha-has. Like, I mean, I have like, some clips and things like that, or like my highlights. But I always think the education in me would be a backbone, like that'll always be part of my content. I'm always learning something new, and I love to share that with people. And I think people appreciate that as well, right? Like there's always something new coming out. I mean, there's like a new like OBS that just came out. VTube Studio gets updated all the time. I mean, there's just so much going on. So as I learn it, I feel like I know it's self-appointed, but like I feel like I have a responsibility to kind of like let the community know, like, hey, like this is going on. Like it's kind of important. Like pay attention to it.
Do you see yourself more as an educational content creator or like an entertainer?
I'm gonna be honest. I see myself at 50-50 completely. Like, although a lot of my stream content is, kind of more the entertainment stuff. I mean, most of my YouTube is more educational, and most of my YouTube work when I stream on there is educational. So I would say it's really like a half and half, and I kind of like it that way. I don't really know anybody else that does it that way.
And I'm guessing it's gonna stick that way as well after the rebrand as well.
Even after the rebrand, I'm definitely gonna stick that way. It definitely won't change. So don't worry, the guides will still be there.
It'll just be maybe a slightly different, VTuber in the bottom right corner.
Yeah, maybe a different color. I mean, I'm playing with the idea of using just my blonde for the educational and the goth for like my normal stuff. But we'll see. We'll see what I decide.
Yeah. Well, Elara, no matter where you landed, it sounds like there's a very bright future ahead of you, even if it is a little bit gothic in color. So
that's a little dark.
It's a little bit, but no, I really appreciate you coming on to Behind the Model and sharing a little bit of insight into your story. It's been wonderful to chat to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you. Seriously, this was so much fun.
I'm glad. That's what we try to have here. We try to have a lot of fun, and just tell wonderful stories. So thank you. Elara is the latest guest in my series Behind the Models, diving into the stars who make VTubing the creative medium we love. If you're interested in more of Elara's story, you can read the accompanying article linked in the description. You can also find all of her social media channels below. If you liked this episode, I really appreciate it if you went down there, hit the like button, subscribed, and leave a comment if you have any feedback as well. I read them all, and I try to action it as much as I can. Until next time, thank you.